Cell 411 is a great free app for Android and iPhone. It allows you to set up public and private cells for dealing with crime, emergencies, setting up neighborhood watch, activism, and even protecting your kids from bullies on the street or at school. Cell 411 gives your cells turn-by-turn directions to your location with one touch on your phone. There is also a Bluetooth panic button available that can be worn on your wrist, belt, or around your neck. Cell 411 has real-time chat for each alert so you can discuss the incident with family or friends in real-time video streaming. The video is stored on Cell 411's servers so your evidence cannot be deleted if your phone is taken or destroyed. Cell 411 has decentralized ride-sharing that allows for payment in any form: crypto, barter, silver, cash, etc. Cell 411 does not take a cut of your fare. Get Cell 411 free on Google Play and the iTunes Store, or go to getcell411.com. That's getcell411.com.
Anyway, now we're totally talking. We've totally drifted off. We're talking about food now, but that's okay.
Went from one taco to another.
Oh.
Yeah, I went there.
Yeah.
There's blood in the streets, it's up to my ankles. She's blood in the streets, it's up to my knees. She's blood in the streets, the town of Chicago. She's blood on the rise, it's following me.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Abolitionist Abstractions. As always, we are covered by a BIMCOT no government license. This allows reuse by anyone except governments and the agents thereof. You can find out more information about this at bipcot.org. Hey, I got through that one. Jeez, the last Seeds of Liberty episode, I actually blew the BIPCOT intro after doing it. I lost count of how many times. It was pretty sad, but I kept it in there, didn't edit it out. You know, got to be real with the audience. Anyway, what's up, everybody? This is Jeremy. I am back, and this week I brought a friend again, and I actually have. Well, heck, he's a returning guest now, right? I meant to look this up. I forgot what episode I had you back on. It was like 10 or so ago. Anyway, my buddy Jason Boothe, one of the co-hosts of the Vonu Podcast, I have brought him back. We actually have a specific conversation we want to have. We'll get into that in a little bit. It's probably going to get us into some trouble, but hey, that's what we're all about here. But anyway, what's up, Jason? How you doing, man?
I am doing fantastic. I got a full belly. The weather is nice. Work as well, so I can't complain too much. You know, Mother's Day was yesterday, and that kind of sucked. But today is beautiful. Tomorrow will be even better. So
there you go.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I know. I know that particular day is rough for you, but yeah, you made it through another one, so I think you'll be all right. And you seem to have the right attitude already. You're already looking. Things are looking up already. So that's good. That's good. So yeah, we you and I were actually talking the other day, and you know we were sharing some war stories about some stuff, and then some information popped up about some people that you and I know. And this, we're not necessarily singling anybody out here. This this conversation spawned because of the information that you and I came across, but it speaks to a larger issue that I immediately said, hey, we see this all the time in our community. We should do a show about this. And it started off as kind of like we were joking about it. Then I was like, no, we should really do a show about this. So yeah, so we were having this conversation, and like I said, some information came up, and it was the idea of, let's see, how do I put this delicately? Well, I'm not a very delicate person. I think I used the term. What term did I use? Bed hopping sluts, I believe that was the terminology I used to refer to these particular people. And then you informed me of a term for people like that I had never come across yet. Would you say homie hoppers was the term, I believe?
Homie hoppers or
yes.
bunnies.
Yes. Now,
yeah, there's a large gang culture around here, and I kind of grew up in it, and yeah, we call them homie hoppers.
That would explain things. I'm not from a gang type area that I would have picked up on that, but it makes sense. Now, before everybody gets their panties in an uproar, because I know we're going to piss off some people with this, but before everybody gets up in an uproar, first of all, I have no problem with individuals, male or female, or whatever you call yourself, or whatever you are, I don't care, having as much sex with whoever they want, whenever they want, as long as it's consensual on both sides. I could really care less. That is not what this is about. When I use that the particular terminology that I used, because I don't think of the word slut as a derogatory thing. I mean, I know it's used that way, but I'm like, so what? People throw it out there and they accuse certain women of being this way. I'm like, so what? She likes to have fun. Who cares? It's consensual.
They're not sluts, Jeremy. They just have friendly vaginas.
Yeah, I heard that. I saw somebody use that the other day. I almost peed myself. I'm like, that's freaking great. But these particular individuals we're talking about seem to be more focused on, literally just bouncing around a circle, and within a certain community, group, whatever. And again, in a different context, somebody who wants to share themselves around like that, I don't necessarily have a problem with. But when it's in a tight-knit community and there's drama that follows, and it comes with drama, drama precedes, and then drama follows after. There's just drama everywhere. It gets to be a little bit crazy. And specifically in our particular types of communities, like the libertarian anarchist circles that you and I travel in, well, for starters, there's a stereotype about us that, it's a mostly male community. And this, of course, is a very accurate stereotype. It's very true. It's easily still like 75, 80% men, as far as I know, that travel in these circles. So right off the bat, you have a huge disparity when it comes to the numbers game. And then you add to the mix that people that travel in our circles tend to lean towards, the autism scale, and I've talked about this before. So again, if anybody wants to get offended by this, I'm allowed to say these things. I have Asperger's, so you can all kiss my ass. But again, that's a stereotype that gets thrown around about libertarians and stuff, that they all seem to be autistic and whatnot. And to some extent, I think the whole logic game, when you focus predominantly on logic and you seem to put emotion by the wayside, that's how it gets read by a lot of people. That's what it seems like. And whether people actually are on the scale or not, they certainly act like that. So, social awkwardness comes into play a lot with a group of people like that. So when you have these two factors, these two very predominant factors, and then you throw any female into the mix, there's obviously things are going to go haywire, because, a bunch of guys are going to go throwing themselves at this woman just because she's a woman, which, of course, this could get us off in a slightly different conversation, but that's, one of the reasons there's a joke about why aren't there more women in the libertarian movement, and then you could just make a meme and then you show a picture of a bunch of libertarians or anarchists hanging out together, and the next picture is like, yeah, that's why. Because do you really blame them? Go ahead, sorry.
I've heard before, when talking to female anarchists, female libertarians, I've had people outside of that circle ask, why aren't more females in the anarchy movement and the libertarian movement? And 7, 8, 9 times out of 10, the female anarchist or female libertarian will say there's not more females because of the male anarchist.
Yeah. Because there's a bunch of thirsty ass motherfuckers who don't know how to actually talk to women, literally throwing themselves at these poor ladies, and they're not very good at it, and they scare women away. I've known plenty of females that I've come across that have been on this path and then just kind of shied away because they were scared off. And back in my early anarchist phase, I would have ignored that and just claimed that they were being ridiculous, or they obviously just didn't get it or whatnot. But as I've continued to mature a little bit over the years, and as I've talked about extensively, taken a step back over the past couple of years and tried to reassess a bunch of stuff, I look at it, it's like, oh yeah, Yeah, we're horrible, and I mean, I'm definitely I luckily don't have to deal with these things anymore, since things with Jen and I are all good again, and we're one big happy family again. So I don't have to deal in this world anymore like somebody like yourself still does, my friend. But I remember when I did, when her and I split up and I was single. I was never as bad as some of these crazy mothers that just like literally throw themselves. And I mean, it's almost like the running joke with the Bob and Vagine with the Indian guys that always send those messages out. Like it's almost that level of creepiness. And actually, I should actually maybe it's even more creepy, because at least with the Indian guys and the Bobs and Vagine, it's become like funny at this point, even to a lot of females I know. But the libertarian guys are just sad and creepy. So
yeah, and like my daughter's 18 years old, and she is on the libertarian cusp, and there's a reason that I haven't exposed her to the majority of the libertarian or anarchist world. I don't allow her to participate in my political pages, and I don't allow her in some of the groups that I'm in, even though they are anarchist and libertarian. But I'm trying to protect my daughter from the anarchist and libertarian community, from the guys in the anarchist and libertarian community. She is well endowed like her mama, and she is 18 years old, and she has big beautiful blue eyes. And I know what would happen. Like I have seen the other mailbox, the message request mailbox. Like
yes.
I have seen those on some of my female friends.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know people have posted them publicly, and it's just insane.
Oh my goodness.
And that's why I said, like, when I thought about it for a second, I'm like, yeah, I think they actually are even creepier than the Indian guys, because that's just becoming a running gag for pretty much everybody at this point.
Well, okay, the Indian guys, right? The Pakistani, the boob and vagine guys, like they'll send a message and be like, "Oh, I love you, show me, make me love, blah 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 blah." An anarchist guy will straight up send a dick pic. Like, you've never talked to this girl in real life. Bam, here's a dick pic. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
it's just like, how is that going to work for you?
Exactly.
Like, and 99% of the time, the girls block them right away. A dick pic, you're gonna block. Period.
Yeah.
Like,
well, there is always that couple of times, like my mind immediately. Yes. Hold on a second. Did you ever? I don't know. Did you watch How I Met Your Mother?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember the naked guy?
Yes.
My mind immediately went to that. I'm like, well, there is that percentage of the people that are just like, fuck it, whatever.
And those are the kind of people we talked about at the beginning of the show.
Well, yeah.
But and that's the other issue. That's the other issue, is that it has to work part of the time in order for them to keep doing it. Like it's fishing. They have to have success in order to keep using this bait.
Well, maybe,
and
or
that's a whole nother disturbing issue.
Well, yeah. I'm sure it definitely does work for some people some of the time, but I think maybe a large portion of people do it probably based on myths of other guys who claim it worked for them. And it's like, oh, well, it worked for him. I might as well keep trying, like that type of thing. But like most likely, it didn't work for most of those guys either. But of course, it's funny because, like I said, we weren't going to piss off a whole bunch of people because now we're attacking everybody. So yeah, I get that most of the a lot of the guys in this movement, yeah, we suck largely. I'm a full blown asshole, but at least you don't have ladies, you don't have to worry about me because I'm not looking for any of you. But so that's what I started to say earlier, that we have this group of guys that have these certain traits that are very predominant throughout the community. So number one, they scare off the girls that come here legitimately looking for freedom and looking for liberty and wanting to know more and stuff like that. But then there's other ones that use this group of people, it seems, because they're easy pickings. And that's really at the heart of what I think when we started talking about this the other day, what popped into my mind that I think I really wanted to address is, like I said, I'm not picking on anybody in particular, and I just wanted to point some of this stuff out because it all ties into this whole thing that guys, libertarians, anarchists, my so-called brethren. Yeah, we've a lot of you folks. We've as a whole, and yes, I'm saying we. I'm using that collectivizing language. You can bite me with that, but we you leave yourselves kind of vulnerable to this type of thing when this is the type of community that you're in, and it is predominantly male. And whether you are one of the super thirsty ones who jumps all over any female and makes an ass out of yourself, and inadvertently makes an ass out of the ideas and the philosophies, because that's unfortunately what happens, regardless of whether it's wrong or right. A lot of people tend to attach the actions of individuals expressing or claiming to adhere to a certain philosophy or ideology. A lot of people instinctively attach those actions to that ideology or philosophy, especially if they see it a lot of times. If they see it often enough, it's like, wow, every guy I've come across, or most of the guys I've come across have all been this way. This has got to be the way the whole grouping, as a collective, most of them are, type of deal. So, you're already putting yourself at a disadvantage by being like this, but that now you're leaving yourself vulnerable to, well, women that would like to take advantage of these situations and become the homie hoppers of this group and just cause even more dissent and break up friendships and stuff like that, which I understand happens in every aspect of life, but for this particular community, there's not a lot of us. We like to think there's a lot more of us than there are, and the numbers are growing pretty consistently as far as I could tell. I mean, every old-time anarchist or libertarian I talk to, they all seem to say the same thing. That the past 10 years or so they've seen an increase, and a consistent increase in people coming to these ideas than any other point they can think of in the 20, 30, 40 years they've been in these movements.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And the last 10 years that you're talking about, I believe that the same reason that there has been such an increase in the last 10 years is the same reason that so many of these male anarchists, male libertarians have such bravado, and it's because of social media, right? When with the advent of social media, you were able to get information back and forth to each other. You're able to talk to people on the other side of the planet at an instant, right? You're able to instantly connect. You're able to instantly inform and have group discussions and educate and all that good stuff. The downside of that of social media and of the advent of the internet in general is there's no real repercussions for your actions, right? So it gives a lot of people what I call keyboard balls, like you get drunk, right? You get beer muzzles. Well, when you're behind a keyboard, a lot of people they get more. They get more assertive, they get more dominant, they get more attitude, they get more aggressive, and I believe that is also what we're seeing, that is driving away a lot of anarchist and libertarian curious females, is because these guys are using the anonymity of social media. Right, there's a buffer zone. There's no repercussion for their actions, and they're using that as I want to say not a reason, but it's catapulting their bravado and it's perverting their sense of righteousness, of right and wrong. I just lost my train. Lost my train of thought.
No, that's all right. I'll try to pick up where you left off then. I could definitely see that, and I mean, I'm somebody who definitely fell prey to that a lot more so a couple of years ago, especially during that aforementioned angry anarchist phase. Yeah, you do. It's a lot easier to get amped up like that because you're right. There aren't as many repercussions unless you're somebody like me who ends up getting doxxed because of your actions, which is a whole separate issue. But I could definitely see that, and that for sure plays an impact on such individuals' interactions with other people, especially other people trying to find out more about these ideas, and even more so, especially when it comes to females. Like people, like I said, you definitely scare people off, and which doesn't help. But on the flip side, we have these other individuals who are not so easily scared off, and some of them. At least a number of them I've seemed to have come across, whether directly or indirectly through friends of mine or stuff like that. But there's been quite a number I've come across that seem to just slip in and again just take advantage of the fact that people are there's so many guys so thirsty for females to be joining the movement that they don't even necessarily have to believe in the ideology itself. Or they could just learn.
No,
they could learn just to talk a few. They could learn a few talking points and throw those out there, and guys will swarm to them. And as I was thinking about this before, as you were talking, I'm like, and lest anybody get confused, I'm not talking about the bots on Facebook who try to friend everybody, and the super thirsty anarchists and libertarians among us who just click yes on the friend request just because it's a female. The ones that are so blatantly a bot of some kind. And it's funny too because it used to be certain pictures would tip you off to those things. Like clearly, like this, you could tell there's no way in hell this particular chick has interest in all these guys who, who seem to share one or two things in common. But now it's gotten even like more blatant, where it's not just a picture. Like the very first post you see when you click on these people's profiles, if you bother to go click on the profile before you hit yes, is like some standard copy pasta post with some flowers or hearts mixed in about how they're looking for a good time, and they're telling you straight out like what they're doing. It's still so many guys just click yes. So like I said, so where you're, my problem here is, and like I said before, the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I think it's a real problem, and sure, like we can mock these things and we can laugh at people on both sides of the spectrum for their idiocy, but I don't think it's doing the liberty movement, whatever, for lack, I do hate that term, but you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I know. It's doing this. I don't like it either. It's doing it a disservice if a good portion of you are getting all up in arms and all excited about these fake ones that are running around, and you're too stupid to realize that because you're just so desperate for attention that you're obviously it's kind of hard to believe that you're thinking clearly in other facets of your life if you're that disconnected in that particular facet. And then on the flip side, you have the ones that are opening their doors and/or homes, or in certain cases, giving up their homes and walking through somebody else's door and then being tossed out. Not naming any names, but like that. These. Well, like I said, I hate. I'm not trying to be sexist here, but I've just seen it more from the females. I guess I like to think that the females that actually do make it into the libertarian and anarchist circles and stay here and can get past the insanity and just horribleness of most of us men are too smart to get sucked into stupid shit like this. I like to think that, at least, because they seem to possess a great deal of patience in the first place. The fact that they're willing to put up with us to actually get through and understand these ideas and realize that, oh yeah, I really do agree with these ideas. I just have to ignore the idiots and I could still, promote this stuff. I like to think those ones are too smart to fall for this. So, but like I said, I happen to see it more in males, and I've seen it way too much where these, as you refer to them, homie hoppers, just bounce around in the circles and end up just like destroying guy after guy after guy. And yes, on one hand, the guy obviously is responsible for his own actions. I'm not taking anything away from that. But I'm just saying, maybe folks, maybe, just maybe, you might want to be a little more careful. Be a little more discerning. And I know it's well, hold on. I just want to say I know it's tough because, as we've mentioned, we severely outnumber the females in this movement. I get that. I've known that ever since the beginning. Like I said, I've known it while things were good between Jen and I when they weren't, but like I've known it this whole time. We vastly outnumber them. So I get being excited when a pretty face shows up and says, "Hey, what's this liberty thing about?" I get wanting to jump all over that, and So on one hand, don't scare them away, but also that doesn't mean that you have to just roll over and accept everything and just yes them to death either, because that's how these other homie hoppers get in. And like I was getting at before, we can't, this movement, if people want to see real, like, larger scale freedom in their lifetime, and the more and more people I talk to and the more and more I listen to these days, I've seen a renewed vigor behind this, that a lot more people are starting to change their mind and thinking, hey, wait a minute, we may actually have a chance to see this in our lifetime, and while I like that positivity, and I still live my life like I'm not going to see it, so I don't get my hopes up. And then if it does happen, it's going to kick ass beyond belief. But I've talked about this. I long since gave up and said, okay, it's not going to happen, but I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing and trying to do more, so that hopefully my kids have a chance to see it, type of deal. Like, that was just my attitude. But we're not going to get anywhere close to there if you guys are just picking yourselves off with this stupidity, and then and letting people destroy, I've seen lifelong friendships should be destroyed over this shit. And again, yes, yep, the guys are just as dumb for being involved in this and making the stupid mistakes or whatever. But you made it. Yep. You're a vulnerable class, guys. And you've made it very obvious that you're a vulnerable class too, because that's the perception of you. The perception outside of the community about most of the males in this community is that we're all neckbeards who live in mommy's basement. Like, that is the actual perception. There's a reason those memes float around. There's a reason that it's a stereotype that gets floated. That's what people actually believe about us. Don't contribute to that. Don't make it more of a reality, fellas. You're not helping yourselves or the cause of freedom or any of the rest of us by doing that, man. Jesus. Sorry. And rant. Go ahead. What were you going to say, Jason?
I was going to say, as you mentioned earlier, I don't want to say a large portion, but more than a few of the people in the quote anarchist or libertarian movement, they are on the scale, the autism Asperger scale. They are on the scale, right? I know you're like, yeah, you're on the scale. We've all taken the test, and that does leave them vulnerable to people that do want to take advantage of them. People that show them kindness, show them a little bit of attention. It's really easy to start to manipulate those people that are on the spectrum. My son has autism. I see it. And then the other side of the anarchist libertarian movement, there is a large portion of the quote movement that are narcissists. And they come here because of the faux moral superiority that they get, the power that they get, the attention that they get by being brutalist, by being anarchist. It makes them have the faux moral superiority that they can talk down to status and talk down to these people and call them baby killers and welfare whores and all this other stuff. And those people are just as easy to prey on for the people that want to take advantage. Again, all they have to do is show them a little bit of attention, right? And that feeds that ego, that feeds that narcissism, that feeds that power trip. Yeah, a large portion of not only our friends but of our friends' friends of people that tout anarchism, they are A, white knights, and B, easily manipulated, and that again contributes to the belief that that anarchists are just neckbeard wearing, fedora, having people in their mama's basements that'll do anything for a girl with a smile and a big rack.
My lady.
And it has broken up friendships. It has, like, I've lost friends that got associated with certain females in the quote unquote movement, and it has destroyed friendships. It has destroyed. It has caused a lot of hurt feels for me, and it's not cool at all. It's not cool at all. I mean, and as you said, like, I don't have any real issue with voluntary association, right? If what two people do is none of my business, as long as they're not hurting anybody else. But when there's a pattern of certain individuals that are doing this, like, there has to be a point in time where, guys, you got to get off your horse. You got to stop white knighting these girls, and you got to stop letting them hop on you. You got to quit being a homie. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, and that's funny, because that was. I mean, I definitely agree with you with that. But that was something I hadn't even considered when we were talking about this pre-show and also the other day. But yeah, that's definitely an issue too. That even if it's not. Somebody hopping beds and wrecking friendships that way. It's the white knights that get strung along by some of these people. Some of these females, especially, who actually are bad actors in some shape or form, and they encourage the behavior, and then that also doesn't help. That doesn't help the community at large for the outside perspective either, because then what happens? People, like, I've had to deal with this. I've gone after a couple of very specific females, like multiple times, never unprovoked, mind you, and always not because of them being a woman whatsoever, just because of what they were doing, and a lot of people came to their defense in that stuff, and it's like, yeah, you're not doing the movement any favors if you start white knighting for them and then fall into the bullshit, because a lot of that stuff quickly turns to basically you getting called a misogynist and the patriarchy getting brought up, and then you obviously see the roots of where the other side was coming from to begin with it. But it's like, from the outside, then that also furthers the stereotype of predominantly male, all about money and capitalism and fuck children, the elderly, and all this other stuff, and patriarchy. Like, that just feeds that stereotype too. Whether you're actually being the one sitting there calling the guy the racist or the anti-Semite, or whatever, or the gay bash, or whatever it is, whether you're using that terminology or not. If you white knight for these SJWs in anarchist clothing that sneak into the movement, and then they call you out for simply pointing out what they're doing, but they attack you with this patriarchy and all this other stuff, which is, again, has happened to me, then you, by extension, are now connected to them, so that it's like, oh yeah, look, even some of their own are saying that this is the way it is over there. And that doesn't do the overall ideas of freedom any good either, because less people are likely to check out what you have to say. They'll just, again, immediately tune you out, right or wrong. But it's because it's the idea that they've gotten in their head, because that's the perception. And unfortunately, another thing that's really difficult for the predominantly male population of these communities to understand, especially because that same predominantly male population of these communities prides itself on being very logical. The fact that perception shapes the reality of everybody outside of the logical world goes right over their head. It's like you forget that other people, the perception, they're not going to bother to ask questions. They don't have to. There's a perception that enough people share, and it doesn't have to be right. And a lot of people on this side of the fence forget about that, because they believe, they pride themselves on being so steeped in logic. And you kind of, I've commented on this a lot of times, that people just, like, they've disconnected from reality again. They figured out the problem, and then they immediately went back to acting the same exact way.
Well, yeah, I have the theory that most people that are in the anarchist and libertarian communities aren't actually libertarian or anarchist. Right? They just trade political parties for economics or for great man, or in this case great women. And that becomes their the thing that they stand behind. That's the thing that they protect, right? Instead of being like actual freaking philosophical anarchists and thinking for yourself. They attach themselves to an economic idea or a great man such as, Kokesh or Larkin or any of those people. Or Stefan. Oh my God, Stefan's followers are just freaking bonkers. And that's their, quote unquote political party now is that great man or that economic theory. And they totally miss the entire point of being anarchist, of no gods, no masters, of thinking for yourself.
Oh yeah, completely. And also they've forgotten some of the great early lessons of basically admitting that you don't know anything is actually the first step to knowledge. But now, and also the whole thing about getting into this about logic is there aren't, you start to realize that there aren't as many absolutes as people want to make it out to be, or these black and white things are not as black as white as you want them to be. You realize that quite quickly, but these same people forget that and start, like you said, latching on. The great man thing is
we talked about it before, the Ron Paul fallacy.
Yeah, exactly. That
was the last show.
Yeah, that was the last one we had on. But yeah, that definitely happens. But I don't know, man. This whole these are all ongoing problems as it is. And if you throw some puss in the mix, as we say on the Freedom Fiends, to be FCC compliant,
some cat muff.
it's not gonna make things any better, especially when you have when you have a population in a particular community that is predominantly sex starved and socially awkward.
And again, just one of the things that just came to mind.
Oh, sorry. Hold that thought for 1 second. And I once again, I want to reiterate, I am not calling myself any better than any of these people, because for the longest time, I sex starve actually. Luckily, I've never had necessarily had a problem with that. But socially awkward, oh yeah, I've been a socially awkward fucker most of my life. It's only been able to get behind the microphone for these past 3 or 4 years that have made me more comfortable with speaking to people like this and actually sharing my ideas and not being as socially awkward.
Yeah, agree. Exactly the same as you. I am an introvert. I am a huge socially awkward. I don't like going out in public and all that good stuff, but I have learned to open up a lot after getting behind the microphone and for the last year and a half now, and that has helped a lot. That has helped a lot in changing my mindset before, as we talked about in my first episode of the Seeds of Liberty. Changing my mindset and getting out of that depression, that helped a lot too. But I was going to bring up, we talked about it earlier about females in the anarcho movement preying on guys.
Yeah.
And you can see this on certain Facebook pages where they post pictures of themselves with low-cut tops and provocative pictures and certain styles of clothing and things like that they literally use it to attract attention. And that brings out that easily manipulative portions of the community and white knights them and protects them and gives them attention that they're seeking, and that feeds that ego again that these narcissists that have and that these people with on the spectrum, the autism Asperger's spectrum, and again it feeds into that. These people they're taking advantage of the guys, which make up 60, 70, 80% of this quote unquote community, and they know it. They absolutely know it, and no, it does not do any good. It does not help spread the message. Because those no, it doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't help spread. It draws attention.
maybe
it draws attention, and then but the person has to be willing to, actually think and to challenge their own beliefs.
Oh, no,
and
of course.
90% of them are not there for that. 90% of them are not there for that.
Well, no, of course. But how about I don't know, because I as I was listening to you, I was trying to think that through, and if we're talking about somebody who obviously doesn't really believe in these ideas and is not actually and is only doing it. Which I mean is some form of fraud, but I'm not even talking about it in terms of a crime. I could see that being, but nothing but detrimental. But I mean, in all honesty, because I've known a couple of the female anarchists over the years who have been very open about the fact that they have used their platforms specifically and taking pictures like that and whatever and stuff like that, but because it does draw in a crowd, and for every
sex sells.
Yeah, so like I don't know, man. I don't think I could totally write that one off, because I've seen it work to a certain extent. I get what you're saying. I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of really contradicting myself here by agreeing with one and not the other. I don't know. But I think I'm seeing that differently for some reason. And just, like I said.
Okay. How about this? There's a difference between them doing it to attract attention, to a cause or to an issue, or, to a link to a story or something like that, and them doing it to actually prey on the people in the movement, on the people in the community, to financially gain from them.
Well, yeah, but
right?
again,
there's a difference.
No, there's definitely a difference, but unfortunately, my mind immediately goes to, well, that seems to be a fine line right there, because again, the guys if they're dumb enough to be giving their money away or doing whatever, like that is on them, and it is. If it's like I said, I guess it would really maybe would just have to, as many things would, come down to an individual basis for me. Because if it's somebody who I think, and this, it doesn't matter what sex you are, what sex you call yourself, or what you think you are, whatever it is. If
there are females that do this exact same sort of white knight, anarcho justice warrior that do it for Adam Kokesh.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
There are women in the movement that do it for Kokesh.
Oh, absolutely.
Just as there's guys that do it for females.
Well, yeah, so I'm saying. So it doesn't matter who it is. But if you're still it's still a voluntary exchange. I mean, you are you're not making anything any better, but that's your own stupidity. But yeah, I mean, in the overall scheme of what we're talking about, yeah, you're right. It doesn't help things, and whether people are specifically praying or not, I don't know. Like, 'cause that just gets into too many gray areas for me, where you have to like figure out intent and all that. And I'm fine with people using what they basically, using what you got to sell some shit. I really don't have a problem with that. I mean, that's just my attitude overall. So that's why I think I have a hard time with this one. So again, if people are going to fall for it, but that's what I'm trying to do here by having conversations like this. Like, at least make more people more aware. Hey, maybe you should be paying more attention to this. I'm not going to necessarily try to stop the people that are doing it from doing it, but just maybe try to wisen the other of course, prospective prey up. Do what they're going to do.
I don't have an. I don't want to say I don't have an issue, because I do have an issue.
You can. It's fine. That's the thing.
But not it. I don't have an issue enough to call them out and try to change them. Right. That's what they do over there. That's fine. I'm going to do what I do over here. I'm not going to associate with those. With those people.
And that's perfectly fine. But like I said, I don't know. It's, for me, there's too many gray areas with that. But yeah. But I mean, as far as, willfully taking advantage of people, yeah, I find that to be wrong. I wouldn't necessarily say it's, always wrong all the time, how much I hate absolutes these days. But, I would personally think it was wrong and be less inclined to associate with such people, and hopefully try to I was about to say convince, but I really don't want to convince. I just want to. I would like to put the information out there and see maybe other people will think the same way, and then, that's the way the whole personal boycotts and ostracization is supposed to work. Although, as I've talked about on previous episodes, I'm still very skeptical of whether it actually can work. At least as humanity is currently comprised, because people abuse the ever-living fuck out of it right now. You're doing it wrong, folks. You're doing it fucking wrong.
I will go ahead and say right now, Jeremy, that it is impossible to ostracize anyone in the anarcho or libertarian communities that has a nice set of tits. Period. It won't happen. It will not happen because somebody somewhere will still associate with them.
That's a bold claim, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off. You know what? I'm trying to think if anybody has been that I can think of.
No.
I can't think of too many. I mean, there's been a couple of females I know that have been ostracized, but I didn't know them personally, and I can't picture them in my head, so I can't actually speak to that, whether that actually is a true statement right now. But I get
maybe they've been pushed out of like the mainstream, the quote unquote like the big circle, but they still have a circle.
Well, yeah, because also people are. Because the same people that are so easily manipulated, as we've been talking about through most of the show, are also easily duped into giving second and third and multiple more chances when there shouldn't be. I mean, I'm not opposed to giving second or third chances. I've had to ask for plenty of them in my life, but at a certain point, if it continues to happen, it's like, well, you're doing this to yourself because you just keep letting the person screw you over, even though it becomes the whole Charlie Brown Lucy thing. So, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not against the idea of giving these chances, but by doing so, by being so easily duped, you let it happen more often than it should, and people slip through the cracks. And like I said, I'm sure if we scour the records, we could probably come up with some people who would disprove your absolutist claim that you made there, bud. But overall, I get what you're saying. Like the overall idea behind that, I fully get behind, because I think it's largely true. I mean, heck, here we go again with the we. You know what? I used to yell at people for saying that, and now I just don't care anymore. And whatever. Yes, I do have a mouse in my pocket. Get over it. His name is Frank. Whatchamacallit? Like we can't even get rid of people like fucking Kokesh and Barwick, no matter how many times they do fucking.
Oh my goodness,
they do fucking shit. And no matter how many times it's pointed out. I mean, I've talked about this. I think I talked about it recently. Yep. The whole episode I did, the Lowbirds episode that Jim Jesus, David Lukehart, and I did. Very well documented. And the majority of Adam's supporters' response was, "Oh, this is all crap."
And?
Did you even look at it? No, it wasn't even and. This is all bullshit. Did you even look at it? Oh, you have this thing about Macy. This is totally disproven, so I don't have to look at any of the rest of the stuff. It's like,
yeah.
No, do you actually remember the story of what happened with Macy retracting her statement? No, she retracted because she got shit upon by fucking his nation of fucking idiots. And she was legitimately scared, and was just kind of like, you know what?
That's exactly what she was chased. She was harassed.
It's easier if I back off and just say, But like he was the one who presented the document in the first place when it first came up. Like he was the one who tried to get out ahead of it and actually provide the document. So like we know the document existed. He admitted to that. Like anybody saying this was like made up shit. No, it legitimately happened. You're an idiot. You're just a sycophant. You're just, like we got a lot of that. I mean, there were a couple of people who actually did say like, "Oh, this is actually interesting. I never knew these things. I'm going to have to rethink." And it's like, yeah, that's all we wanted. We're not telling you got to, but this is a real world example. And I think, I mean, although I do think there's people who have done much worse things, like Berwick.
Yeah.
Repeatedly, and other people that just people keep getting away with it because they're a pretty face and they're charismatic and they can draw a crowd. So people think, oh well, they're still a valuable tool. They've done so much for liberty. They can keep doing so much for liberty. You know what would do more for liberty? not scaring away the females that are fucking interested, and then not falling for the fucking the succubines or whatever they come in and fucking to do the manipulating, and actually growing the movement.
Killing unicorns, motherfuckers.
Seriously, man, because that's the one thing I've heard, and this comes especially from the peaceful parenting contingent, which I'm a big proponent of. I've talked about it plenty. My Jen and I, we try to engage in peaceful parenting as often as possible. Sometimes it's difficult because these are my children; they have my attitude, and I can be a pain I can be a real pain in the ass to deal with. So can my kids. I get it. But the whole idea of outbreeding the statists, that gets floated around in that circle and plenty of other circles. Well, how the hell are you going to do that if it stays a predominantly male community, and the females that you do let in are these fucking scumbags? Or you chase away most of the good ones, and only the really strong ones could put up with your bullshit and go, okay, yeah, I still like the ideas. I'm still going to hang out and promote this stuff. I'll just ignore most of you twits. We have some very good friends that fall into that category that were strong enough to see past that bullshit. But I could, just as easily as a military member who's on the fence could get thrown aside and say, you know what, maybe I don't want to go this route because they run into things like the troops are welfare whores and all that stuff. A page which I used to be a huge fan of, and I was friends with the guys who ran it and whatever, and I made a bunch of memes like that. But when that's your first introduction, it could very easily scare you off, and you can't really blame them. I mean, heck, I know I've talked about it before because we had him on the Seeds of Liberty a long time ago. My buddy Dylan Robinson. He talked about that, I think, when we had him on. The fact that he was, when we first came across Dylan, he just happened to stumble across one of our podcasts that just happened to have our friend Donnie Gebert on, who spent like 19 years in the military, and he was intrigued. But then once he tried to start talking to us and joining different groups and stuff like that, and then he came across not only those groups and pages, but the people that immediately, like, he would watch people in different threads in different posts in different places, and like if somebody would admit to being a soldier of some sort, like immediately everybody would descend and like not even ask questions, like just start calling them names, and he said he actually tuned it out for a while. He was like, you know what, maybe I don't want to do this, and actually re-enlisted because he was like, yeah, these guys are all assholes. Why do I want to hang? Why do I want to follow this philosophy? Why do I want to go down this path? It's the same thing when it comes to women. When there's this perception out there to begin with, and then a lot of people just all they end up doing is encouraging and feeding that perception and proving it true over and over and over again. Well, you're gonna scare a lot of fucking people off. God damn it! Stop it! Fucking stop it! I hate to be authoritarian and give orders, but Jesus fucking Christ, people, come on! I mean, seriously.
As you said earlier, perception is reality when it comes to things like this, and if somebody is interested, especially a female, is interested in the libertarian anarchist communities, and in the philosophy at least, and they go onto one of these pages that, and they see the white knighting, and they see the derogatory comments, they see the brutalism, they're going to turn right back around and never come to that page again, because that is their perception of the community. That is their perception of anarchism, of libertarianism, of stateless societies. Like that becomes their truth.
Well, yeah,
based entirely on witnessing people's interactions with each other.
Well, yeah, because even if it's only a couple of the people, it's like, well, they're allowed to get away with this. They're allowed to treat people this horribly. Even if not everybody acts like this, they just allow them to do it. I still don't want to be around it, type of deal. So yeah, either way you lose. And like I said, it doesn't help. It's not helpful to grow a movement, which most people I know, and most people I've talked to, and most people whose stuff that I listen to or read or whatever, They all say the same thing at some point. That's what they all would like to do. Whether they're somebody who actively goes out there and tries to preach and convert people, or who's just happy that people do. That's most people in our shoes want that. We want more people to come to these ideas, because the more people that come to these ideas, the freer we all become. We understand that, but. So if at the core that's what most people, one of the things they want, and very much so want, then we should be doing things to encourage that growth, not discourage it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely,
and everything, all the things. Well, of course, but all the things we've been covering during this episode, that they're all things that discourage that. Whether it's chasing them away because you're so thirsty and just throwing yourselves at any woman who comes anywhere near the movement, or because you continue in droves to throw yourselves at these women who come anywhere near the movement, other women see that and go, "Oh, I could take advantage of that. This is perfect." And then they swoop in and pretend to be all about liberty, and then even worse if they end up getting any kind of following. Because then if somebody like that comes in and then gets some kind of following, then they could end up leading to the stuff you were talking about earlier, Jason, with these pages where they're straight up taking advantage. Like, if that's again, I wouldn't go out of my way to stop it. I would try to encourage people from going there or helping her in any way. But yeah, I would have a, I guess, quote unquote problem with that. Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm not a fan of that type of stuff. So yeah, those type of people would definitely do. But that's how these people end up here. That's why when you see people on social media complaining about all the bot friend requests you get. Well, why does that happen? Because somebody figured out that this is a very exploitable market. So fuck it, here we come, boys.
Yep, where there's a market demand, there's a market solution.
Exactly. The bots that the people that actually are smart enough to avoid most of this bullshit and/or are in relationships and don't have to deal with this bullshit. Aside from them, everybody else, yeah, it's just like you all complain about it, but yeah, why does it happen? This is a straight up market. You're right. It's a straight up market demand. You idiots are clamoring for females, and you're not very discerning. So the bots and the scam artists come in, and
that's the other thing. They're literally their own worst enemy when it comes to this. Because of the attitudes, because of the white knighting, because of the dick pics, because of how they treat these women, other women see that and turn around. So they're literally their own worst enemy. If you want more women in the anarcho and libertarian communities, quit doing what you're doing. If she wants to see your dick, she'll ask.
Yeah, I mean that one I've never understood. I've never got that. I mean,
send her a pic of your dog. I guarantee you, she's 100% less likely to block you.
Well, it depends. I know a lot of cat ladies in the movement that might actually might take it offensively. But anyway. But yeah, no.
I'm bipetual. It's okay.
Bipetual.
I like cats and dogs.
Hey, I like them all, man. I used to have a mini. I mean, I think I might have talked about this at one point. I'm pretty sure I did. Probably in the Seeds of Liberty at some point. But there's one point here. I had like an actual almost enough animals to start a traveling, like quote unquote petting zoo, but like with small animals and stuff like that. Because
you told me you were you did like animal rescue.
No, I
didn't. Like that.
And I didn't.
You didn't. Okay, that's right.
Yeah, I didn't do animal rescue when I first started my company all those many years ago. I mean, now that we're going back almost a dozen years, maybe 11. Yeah, because it was my first somewhere in my first year where this started happening. But yeah, because I had ferrets and I had a bunch of them, and I ended up rescuing a couple of ferrets, but word got around about the fact that I had taken these troubled children, as they were labeled, the difficult ones. I had taken them in and tried to rehabilitate them and made them actually, pretty decent, pretty cool ass little pets, despite their problems to start with. But yeah, my number just started getting passed out. And I thought people were giving it out for my business, for my pet sitting business, but unfortunately, it got confused. And in one of those horrible games of telephone, people started just passing out my number and going, "Oh yeah, this guy, he'll take your pets. So yeah, I used to get calls all hours of the day for me to take in different animals." And for the most part, I was just like, no. I actually legit got calls for horses and stuff. And at that point, I was living now it was probably about the same size as my house right now, which the main floor is 920 square feet. It's probably about that, but that's all I had was the main floor because I was renting that house, so I didn't even have the upstairs. And so I just had this tiny little house that I was pulling out all often. But I was like, where the hell am I going to go with a horse? I have seriously, a horse, really? Okay. I mean, granted,
well, if you got a backyard.
Well, I mean, I was gonna say, granted, even long before I finally decided I wanted to do I was gonna legit try to do the farming thing. I've always wanted to have a cow.
Yeah, me too.
Just because I wanted to have one cow hanging out for number one for milk, and number two for possible psilocybin byproducts that may come from
cows, pigs, and chickens. That's what I want, and ducks. I want ducks.
Well, I want ducks. I like duck eggs, so I definitely want to try to get ducks once I got my farm. I may actually prefer to those the chickens. We'll see. I mean, heck, I'm going different. I'm doing the whole bison thing because that's what I want to have.
Bison.
Bison's delicious. It's one of the things I've missed since, and I can't even get that much of it. The only thing they sell around here is ground bison, but I'll take it.
That's all that I could find here too, and it's like $8 a pound.
Okay, yeah, we pay about that around here too. But that's one of the it might even be 10. But that's one of the things I had to give up when once the money problems started happening and the delays and all that other crap and everything else I've had to deal with. When I had to, we had to clamp down and get serious and try to last as long as we could without asking for help. It was one of the first things to go. I was like, oh, my bison. I'm so sad because I found so. I mean, not only did my kids end up loving it because in tacos, because we do Taco Tuesdays like any good human being does, and we do Macaroni Monday and Taco Tuesday. Oh, I think it's the only day we actually had set. Although we had tacos tonight though, just because I wanted to be different. But yeah, whatchamacallit, there's a reason I was saying that. We did it every Tuesday, and I would rotate between beef, turkey, and bison, and my kids loved the bison tacos. I think they were actually their favorite. So I was all excited. I was like, yeah, we get the bison regularly. And then when I was doing paleo, I found out all these cool recipes I could do. Even with the ground stuff, I found all these great recipes I could make with it. And
you gotta get on California time and get some fish tacos in there.
You know what, man? To this day, I still don't think I've ever had a fish taco. And
dude,
I actually and I dig most seafood too, so it's weird that I've never actually had one. But
that is just so wrong.
I know, but it's just I don't know, man. I like my meat.
Yeah, we get really good salmon here.
Salmon,
really good salmon, and then tuna. Tuna comes up from Hawaii and from Southern California. So we get really good salmon and really fresh tuna. And tuna tacos are absolutely fantastic. With you got to have jalapenos though. You got to have jalapenos or pickled jalapenos if you get a choice.
I don't even think I've ever had those either. But
we're way off topic.
That does sound good though. I mean, I like tuna steaks and all that stuff. So. Anyway, now we're totally talking. We've totally drifted off. We're talking about food now, but that's okay.
Went from one taco to another.
Oh,
yeah, I went there.
Yeah, I don't usually do bumpers for the for AA, but I think I might have to pull that one. Let me write down the time, an hour 18. All right. Anyway.
Oh, wow. I'm a bastard sometimes.
You're a bad man, Jason Boothe.
Yes.
But probably what makes me like you so much. Anyway, since we have taco hopped at this point, I guess that means we should start closing things out. I think we beat that particular ass to death. So we can move on. Anyway, well, this has been a lot of fun, man.
That turned out a lot better than I thought. That was fun.
I mean, I hope not too many people hate us after that one. I mean, we didn't get.
I'm sure.
I thought things might get even worse, but like I said at the begining, and try to keep reiterating, this wasn't about attacking people for wanting to have sex with whoever they want, or even as much as they want with whoever they want. But it was really just an observation I had, the conversation you and I were having the other day, and you seemed to see it too. And I was like, well, maybe we should talk about this because it's, and then you brought up all those other things there are all different things coming from different parts of the community, but none of them are helping. So maybe, just maybe, like you said, if you want to answer the question, why aren't there more women, without just going, well, look. But if you want the real answer, it's you are absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head, Jason. Stop doing what you're fucking doing, because obviously that's not working.
Absolutely, and again, to reiterate what Jeremy said, I have no issue with voluntary association, right? What two people do, that's their business. It's not my business. But goddamn, guys, sometimes you really are your own worst enemy. You really, if you want more women in the anarcho and libertarian circles, stop treating the ones that are here like crap. Stop treating them like they're freaking gods. Stop sending them dick pics or uninvited dick pics. Stop white knighting them and treat them like people, not property, not idols, nothing like that. They're just people, and you have to treat them like that. Food. Yes, friends not. Be like Bruce, damn it. Females are friends, not food. Although we have discussed on Anarchy Among Friends Roundtable discussion that sex is a food group, but that's a discussion for another time. Yeah. We'll have to get it. That'll have to be on the paid channel. Anyway. Well, all right, man. Like I said, hopefully people learned some stuff and didn't take it too badly, and at least listen long enough to hear both of us state that we're not trying to put ourselves. Neither of us are trying to put ourselves above most of this either. There's just certain things that got to be more careful, especially if, again, your stated goal or your deep down belief, whether you're out there stating it and trying to act towards it. But if your goal is to have more people come to these ideas so that in turn you can be more free, because that's usually what it takes. I mean, we can all try to get our own individual freedom, and I'm definitely all for that. That's what I'm trying to do by moving out of New Yorkistan. Yep. My family Vonu. Is exactly, and the Vonu stuff that you and Shane and Kyle talk about over at the Vonu Podcast, all this type of stuff. You can absolutely do that, but things will go a little bit smoother if there's more people on your side. Yes, as Danilo says, a rising tide raises all boats. Yes, right. So the more people we have, the easier it is. Exactly. So just things to think about, folks, and maybe. Maybe we can finally start having a bigger influx of women into this movement, because again, that will also go towards another stated goal of a whole bunch of people I know, and I used to be one of those people that said I was going to be part of that process, and now I've gotten older, and I don't know if we're going to get there anymore. But the whole outbreeding them, well, yeah.
You could try, but it helps if there's a lot more of an equal number. Just
five of you can't breed at once. Damn it! All right.
Yeah, you can't knock up the same woman at more than once at the same time, folks. Do the math. Come on, we're supposed to be logical. You're supposed to be numbers minded. Fucking get with the program, brothers. Anyway, Jason, man, this has been great. So thanks for doing this with me. Thanks for being willing to take whatever this shit's coming this way too, for being part of this. But, like I said at the beginning, this is what I'm all about. This is what I'm all about. So you know what? I know you're tough. You could take it too. So we'll be fine. Anyway.
Yep.
So thanks again for this. Thank you everybody for listening. This has been Abolitionist Abstractions. All of my content can be found at solpodcast.org and at steemit.com/@abolitionistj. And if you're so inclined, you want to donate to the Patreon, which I actually put almost all the Patreon content that comes out is pretty much from me anyway. The SOL Patreon is where that can be found. That's Patreon/Seeds of Liberty, and all that money goes to the hosting for this show and all the other stuff that we do anyway. So if you want to help out that way, it'd be more than appreciated, and then you get some bonus content too. We put out at least a weekly show. Anyway, once again, thank you everybody, and we will catch you next time. Love, peace, and voluntary interactions for all.
Scattered on dawn's highway bleeding. Ghosts crowd the young child's fragile eggshell mind.
This is Daryl W. Perry, host of Free Talk Live. This November, I'll be running in the world's biggest and most popular marathon, the New York City Marathon, and I've accepted a spot on Team Innocence Project because I'm a passionate supporter of their work. Since 1989, 353 people in the United States have been exonerated by DNA testing, including 38 who pled guilty to crimes they did not commit, and 20 of whom served time on death row. The Innocence Project provided direct representation or critical assistance in 180 of these cases. With your help, the Innocence Project can help even more people who have been wrongly convicted. As part of Team Innocence Project, I'm raising awareness about wrongful convictions and raising funds to help free the innocent. I've already paid the race registration fees. However, to secure my spot on Team Innocence Project in the New York City Marathon, I need to raise $3,500 by November 1st. You can support the Innocence Project and help me secure my race entry by going to run.freetalklive.com.